going on, everybody? I just did what I do? 7 rounds, 8 rounds, something like that. My roundage um, is always around 7, 8 rounds per day minimum. That's if I'm at home. If I go to the gym, then I'm going to do, you know, 12 to 18 rounds from at the gym, because I can utilize all the bags, and just the energy in a gym is, you know, not only the people that I've known for years that are at the gym, but the energy at a boxing gym is very different than a home gym. For those of you who don't know, but yeah, so the gym just inspires me to a whole different degree. Whereas the my home gym, which those you don't know, I live in New York City. I don't have much space, so I got to do all kinds of whack ass MacGyver contraptions to hit. What's up, Shay? Appreciate you. It's Marco, but maybe that was a typo. But if it's not, it's okay. Just a common mistake. I appreciate you. Thank you. So I found out. So initially, when I heard that Crawford is offering the rematch to Spence at 47, I was like, all right, Errol's not taking that. They're not going to fight, right? Crawford's just going to wait out Charlo Canelo, get the winner, which most likely is Canelo, and then he's going to go for greatness. No worries, Shay. No worries. People call me Marcos sometimes. I'm not Hispanic, but they do that. Mark. Those are the two common ones I get. It's okay. No big deal. And they spell my name with a C all the time. My name is not spelled with a C, but that's how they spell it. Anyway. What's up, hi, Bilash? What's up, Shamar? What's up, Foes 12? So, no, nothing's confirmed yet, but I did get word from somebody who, well, I'll just say it because you guys all probably know Blue Blood, and Blue Blood's my boy, and he told me it publicly, actually, when I was on his show. So, Blue Blood's one of the only people that I trust when they say something that I know they're getting real inside information. They're not just, they heard it over, it's not that 20 degrees of separation where you whisper into one person's ear, he whispers to the other person's ear, and then by the time it gets to its source, it's all distorted. It goes from like pass me the ketchup to like gobbledygook. It's not like that. I trust what he says. So I was told that Errol Spence is going to accept the rematch at 147. To my chagrin, that's an SAT word. No, it's not, but I don't use that word. But anyway, to my, I don't really want to see that rematch, but he's going to accept it, and they are going to fight at 147. Okay, my bad. So they're going to fight at 147. I don't want to see that fight. I don't think too much weight to cut. For Spence, I mean, I don't think somebody fights their whole career at 147. Well, Spence actually started at 54, but then campaigned most of it at 47. I don't think somebody starts and fights most of their career at a certain weight and then just it's suddenly overnight it's too much weight for him. He could do it. I don't really believe the weight was that big of a factor in his loss. Michael, the thing that everybody believes Crawford will win. What if Spence wins? What's that mean? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does happen, because, in boxing, everybody has a choice. Everybody's not a choice, a chance. Everybody's a chance. What happens? I mean, it just means that Spence probably was. It depends how he wins. It probably means that something was more wrong with him in the last fight than we think. I thought there was something a little wrong with him, but not enough to change the outcome of the fight. So if Spence wins, that'll prove, in my opinion, two things. One, he makes unbelievable adjustments, right? Because he has to make adjustments. And two, there was something a little wrong with him in the first fight. That's what it means. God, I got like cat hair everywhere. That's what it means if he wins that fight. But the odds of that are very unlikely. Bud never left first gear. Yeah, right. I'm with you, Shamar. Bud never did leave first gear. Bud Bud was almost in a state of like, is that it? Like, is he trying to? Is this some kind of a weird possum trap? He wasn't going as hard as he could have, because all the talk, all the hype, and even what he's seen Spence do. He's like, okay, Spence probably has a lot more coming for me. So you're right. So what happens if Bud? I guess that's your point, right, Shamar? What happens if Bud meets Errol's, improvements with putting his foot on the gas a little more? That might negate both, and we'll have the same outcome as the first fight. If I had to guess, the rematch would probably be a little more competitive, but probably a stoppage again. That'd be my guess, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. But we'll see. I don't really want to see that fight, but I'm a little worried because who's Crawford gonna fight? If not Spence, Charlo versus Canelo is possible, but we gotta wait some time for that. First, they gotta fight, right? First, the two of them gotta fight, and the fight has to be decisive, because if it's not decisive, there's a rematch. So now, if there's a rematch, we're going to be waiting another 3 to 6 months, probably more like 6 months. I doubt that they would rematch within 3 months. So, Bud's just going to sit there. He's already turning 36. He's just going to wait and get closer now to 37 and not fight. The only options he has are, in my opinion, Tim Tszyu, Boots, or Thurman. He said he doesn't want to fight Boots, but he also said he doesn't want to go to 150. He also said he doesn't want to go to 168, so he could change his mind. But I'd love to see him fight Boots. Thurman would be fun, but he probably would win easily. Appreciate you, Michael. So I don't really know. I mean, can you guys think of anybody that Bud Crawford could fight next? If not those three, remove Spence, Charlo, and Canelo from that equation. Who could he fight? And not only who could he fight, but who does he want to fight? Because he said clearly he doesn't want to fight Boots. So Boots is gone. So now you remove four of them. Remove Canelo, Charlo, Spence, and Boots. And Virgil Ortiz, because I think he's retired and he's in college now. So who's going to fight? Tank? Nah. You're wilding out, Anthony. What's up, Larry? Tank will not fight. I don't think that'll happen. He's too short. He's just too short. He's just, you're getting into like Rocky IV kind of height differences when you put Tank in there with Boots, with Crawford at this point. Well, Duran did do it, Anthony, but people say that a lot. I hear that, and that's a valid point. But Duran is a proven Hall of Famer, one in a million fighter. So is Tank that? He might be. You might be right, but I think that Duran fought people who, when he went up that high, I don't know, man. I mean, look what happened when Duran went up and tried to fight Hearns. That was only shit. That was only a one weight class. When Duran went up to fight the heavy guys, who was it? He didn't fight any murderous punchers like a Crawford. There was no danger in the guys he fought when he went up 3 classes. Duran. And Duran started at lightweight, but don't forget, Duran was like 19 or 18 or whatever, and he was a lightweight, like he was young. His true weight was probably when he was around 28, 29 years old, which was, I'm not sure what that was, probably 154. Yeah, Tim Tszyu is probably the only fighter that we're going to see Crawford get in there with, because he should have a belt, right? The word is, once they fight, Charlo Canelo fight, the WBO strips Charlo of his WBO junior welterweight belt, and then Tim Tszyu either gets it straight away or he fights whoever he's fighting next for it. That's the winner gets it. And if that's the case, then Tim Tszyu could technically not get it if he loses. Tim is very good, Anthony, but unproven. Really, a lot of these guys are unproven. You go into the lightweight division. The four horsemen: Haney, Tio, Tank, Shakur, all unproven. Let me explain. Not unproven for like the earth, but unproven for elite all-star level. Elite all-star level. The way they prove themselves, they got to fight each other. That's how they prove themselves. But as we're seeing, that's not happening. That's not happening. Brian Mendoza. Okay. Possible. That's possible. Haney and Tio is getting there. Yeah? Why? What makes you say that? Maybe you know something I don't know. I haven't heard that, but it's possible. You could be right. I just haven't heard that. Tim Tszyu's next fight, John, is against some dude. I forget who. Somebody I haven't heard of. Somebody who's not like an all-star or a star. What's up, Danny Side? You got Tim's fighting Mendoza. Okay. Well, you know what? It's possible. Tim Tszyu's unproven. Tim Tszyu punt. I like Tim Tszyu because he reminds me of his pops. Those of you, my age, I was also actively fighting in the 90s. Costa Tszyu is an all-star, is one of the hardest punchers in history. And Tim Tszyu, go Google it right now. Google Costa Tszyu, get a young picture, and look at Tim Tszyu, and they're, fucking identical. It's creepy how much he reminds me of his dad. Tio is getting there. Loma, Josh Taylor. I meant to say Haney and Tio are starting to fight the best. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're starting to fight the best, but this whole jumble fuck of A side B side bullshit is starting to ruin us getting the best fights. It almost ruined Crawford for Spence. It did postpone it. It put the brakes on it for 5 years. So I hope they end up fighting, because unless they fight each other, I'm not sold on any of them. The one I think who is the most talented right now, if I had to pick one of the four, would be Tank. He probably has the best resume. It's arguable with him and Haney, but he's, Loma arguably beat Haney. I thought it was kind of a draw, I guess. I had each guy winning each time I looked at it. I had Haney winning when I first watched it live, and then I had Loma winning when I rewatched it. So, Tank has none of those fights where he he had some fights where he was down in the cards, but he had no fight where it was questionable if he won. So I have to go with Tank. And he's so explosive, and he's by far the most exciting guy to watch. Second to Tio. Tio is really exciting to watch. Honduras better win on Tim's resume. Tim a dog too. That should be. We'll see. Tio's resume is really good too. That's a good point, Anthony. Tio, Haney, and Tank are very close to each other in resumes. That's a good point. Yet when I ask people, like I ask fighters, former champions, current champions, big time trainers, for some reason most people think Shakur would beat all of them, and maybe they're right. I just need to see it first. I need to see a little more. Once he steps up his competition, then I'll agree. Haney's undisputed champion of the world. Please put respect on Devin's name. Champion. He is. Now, remember, this is all subjective, right? My opinion, the way I look at boxing, belts don't always mean anything. Sometimes they do. What means something is who you beat to get the belt. Who was holding the belt matters. because there's tons of guys who had belts who aren't noteworthy, but there's tons of guys who were. So Devin's route to the belts, in my opinion, is not that impressive. I'm not saying he's not a great fighter, and I'm not saying that he might not be able to beat all those guys, because he might be, but I just need to see more. But if I had to choose, in my opinion, going 1 through 4, Devin's number 4. I put Tank, I put Tio, and then I put Shakur, and I put Devin. That's my opinion. And Shakur and Devin might be number 3, actually. That's hard to tell, because Shakur is the most unproven of them all. But just eyeball test, I got to put Shakur above Devin. But Devin's resume says others. So you know what? I'll flip that around. I'll put Devin number 3, Shakur 4, because he's unproven. Haney versus Prograis. Thoughts on Haney versus Prograis? I don't know. Kambosos, Donnie's side. Kambosos he's in the top 10, I guess. But he's in the top 10. You got Packers Gamer, got Shakur, Tio, Tank, Devin. See, a lot of people put Shakur first. I just can't put somebody first who hasn't shown me. Who doesn't hand me a resume and have that list, the names listed on his resume. It's like somebody handing you a resume and being like, in the objective section, being like, I have amazing skill, I have amazing willpower. Everybody who sparred me and everybody says I'm going to be the next person, and I could do this job. And then somebody comes in showing that they did the job already. I'm going to go with the guy who did the job already. That's just how I look at it. But Shakur does have the tools to be possibly one of the greatest fighters of this generation. He has those tools, but a lot of guys have had those tools. You know what I mean? And then when they got tested, it didn't happen how we thought it would. So that's why you got to wait and see. Who whooped Tio? Kambosos? Yeah, he did. There's, Tio has reasons for that, and I actually kind of believe the reasons, but he still did whoop him. I see intangibles, the reflexes, etc., and the Crawford relationship boosts him too. Yeah, that's true. You're saying that Crawford makes Shakur better, which is true. It is true. I learned some invaluable shit in the gym from trainers and from fighters. Some big known fighters, some not, but you can pick up jewels from anybody really, as long as your ears are open. As long as you're ready to receive the jewels, you can pick them up anywhere. You think what was a fluke? You think that Teofimo losing to Kambosos was a fluke? Well, I mean, apparently it was that whole air trapped in his chest thing, and there was a doctor's note came out and said it and confirmed it. I mean, he could have faked the doctor's note, I suppose, but I don't know. I mean, I know Tio a little bit, talked to him a few times. I don't think he would do that, but yeah, you never know. And then, but Tio is exciting, and Tio's 5'8". I thought he was shorter for some reason. I just confirmed with him. I was like, how tall are you? He's 5'8". So he's not as short as I thought, which gives him also, I think, makes him a little more likely that he can move up in weight and go to 147 at some point. Oh, yeah, he didn't want the rematch. I don't think he cares. You know what I mean? Look, it's better that he fought Josh Taylor and picked up all those belts as opposed to fighting Kambosos again to righting his wrong. Because we look at him now way better for beating Josh Taylor the way he did than we would have looked at him for just beating the shit out of Kambosos in a rematch, don't we? So it was smart. It was a smart move in the long run. Styles make fights. Tio always had problems with taller dudes. Yeah, well, you didn't have problems with this taller dude. Spence ass is grass in the rematch. Yeah, that's correct, Team Bud Crawford. I know who you're going for. Boom, boom. He only lost to Kambosos because he was avoiding Haney. Come on. Let's not talk this avoiding talk. These guys, some of them might not want to fight each other at certain times, but again, it's unfortunately a business. Nobody's scared. I hate when people talk like that. When you're a fighter, when you're in this game, your mentality is a certain way, and you're not going to even make it in the amateur level, let alone the professional level, if you're scared of guys and avoiding them. That's silly. But some guys don't want to fight certain guys at that specific time. Um, and a lot of times, it's not even them; it's their advisors, their managers. A lot of people getting in their ear, and they end up just listening. It's still a business. This is a business. Sometimes you do business with people you don't want to do business with. Sometimes you don't do business with people that you should, because you want to build your stock, you want to build things up, and then you do business with them later on. All that, you know, all that's in the mix. You know what, Anthony? I actually was leaning towards Josh as well. I hate to say, I wouldn't tell Tio that, it's my boy, but I was leaning towards Josh only because Tio didn't look good his last few fights. And the one before that, where you questioned, do I still have it? That's normal. I think a lot of people were picking Josh, but he showed us what he has. Unification trumps mandatory. Exactly. Exactly. So, we're going to see. You picked Tiafimo, he's special. Well, you know, I was going for Tiafimo. Al didn't want Bud and EJ, but felt it was needed to see who was the best. Al Heyman, right? I assume that's what you mean. I had Tio after the Catterall that I was at 140. Okay, even Floyd was perfect all his fights. Well, there's been a few perfect fighters. You guys ever hear of a guy named Ricardo Lopez? Oh, you said wasn't perfect. Okay. It wasn't perfect. I thought Castillo beat Floyd that the first fight. Close, real close, but I had Castillo edging him. I don't know if you guys ever saw that fight. I actually never saw it. And then like when it happened live in the '90s, I think that was it late '90s. I didn't watch it live, but I remember hearing, because back then, don't forget, it was before the internet. So like you couldn't just, if you missed it on cable, if you didn't have that channel, whatever, you don't really catch it. Um, and I just heard people were like, oh, Floyd, he won, but people were saying, oh, Floyd lost, Floyd lost. And I was like, get out of here, you lose, people, because people were hating on Floyd a lot back then. So I always thought it was just bullshit that people were just hating on him. But then when I watched it for the first time myself recently, like this year, I was like, damn, Castillo edged that out. The first fight, second fight, Castillo got washed out, washed out. Shamar said, yeah, Floyd did lose. It happens. You know what I mean? That's the only fight I think he lost though. Like with Maidana, it was close, but I think he definitely won. Cotto was close, but he definitely won. De La Hoya was real close. Like he barely won that fight, but he won, in my opinion. Watched that fight 4 times with my dad back in the day. Floyd won the rematch, no doubt. Yeah, yeah. Floyd took the rematch, and he took that rematch and left zero doubts in the air. So, but yeah, man, we're gonna get Errol versus Crawford #2. Um, I don't want to see it, but I do have confirmation that's going to happen. Errol is going to take it. He just wants his get back. Um, I don't know if that's the best move for him, but what are you going to do? Well, it's unfortunately it's putting a halt on us getting more better fights. In a way, this is like, I feel like the third Wilder versus Fury. After Fury dominated him so easily, really in both fights, but definitely the second fight, we didn't want to see that. We had Joshua and Fury lined up. Remember, Joshua at the time hadn't lost yet. It was a mega fight, and Wilder forced that rematch because it was went to arbitration, and they fought, and then Joshua ends up losing, and that killed a great fight for us to see. So this might do the same thing. While Errol and Bud Crawford rematch each other, Canelo or Charlo might get laid out. Boots might lose, whatever. Something might happen, and we're not going to get a fight right now that would have all of us just itching. It's supposed to be 6 months these days. Yeah. Crawford not going to beat Spence even worse. He's going to beat Spence even worse this time. Yeah, yeah, he might. He might. But I'll say one thing: it is slightly difficult to get up for a fight like this. Oh, he already lost to Ruiz Jr. Joshua did. Okay, maybe he did. but he beat him easy in the rematch, so I guess it was still considered a way bigger fight than it is now. There's a difference between losing once, which looked like a fluke, to an overweight dude who you beat in the rematch. Difference between that and losing also 2 times in a row to a cruiserweight. Granted, a very talented, possibly all-time great cruiserweight, still a cruiserweight, considering you're 6'6" and like 250. So it took all the smoke, all the wind out of the sails of that fight. So that might happen with this one. And I would love Tank should fight Shakur first, then he should fight Tio, and then we'll see where Haney's at, because Haney could very well lose as well. Haney's one of those guys that, in my opinion, I think I give. He has that kind of a style because he doesn't have the power, where I feel like a lot of these top guys have a good chance of beating him. He's had a few close fights too. So he, in my opinion, is the most likely to lose first, is Haney. Based on what I've seen. Tank will fight Pitbull and Colbert before he fights Shakur. Colbert? Chris Colbert? Primetime? Little B-Hop? Tank's going to fight him? He has like 9 pro fights. That's crazy. Where'd you hear that? I like what you're doing, Marco, but why no one ever giving Spence a puncher's chance? Appreciate you, Jay. Well, Jay, you saw the first fight, right? That's why. He landed some of those punches, and they didn't do anything. Nothing. Matter of fact, those punches look like power-ups. Looks like they hit Crawford. He was like, do, and got him stronger. So why would I give him a chance? He had a puncher's chance before they cut. But you can't go against what you see. You can guess, you can debate, you can fantasize, we could talk about, but when you see something like that fight, so one-sided, and saw that literally nothing Errol did had any effect, that's why I don't give him a puncher's chance. Espinosa said they were in talks. Who was in talks? Haney would be in trouble. I agree with you, Packer. He will be in trouble if he fights any of those guys. But Shakur is having the hardest time because he's the only guy that's not a champion. Well, I guess Tank's not a champion either, huh? I didn't realize that, but Tank doesn't have a belt. Tank's never had a major belt. Do you guys know that? I didn't know that. Somebody told me that. Tell me if that's true. Somebody could Google that. Yeah, man, he was powering him up. He didn't even do anything. So Spence is, but the great thing about boxing is Spence could conceivably win. I mean, any fighter has a chance. You're never going to hear me say nobody has a chance. I can percentage it. This one, I'd say 80-20. I gave him 20%, which might even be a little generous. Well, what the hell is a regular? Is that even a championship? The regular? This shit with this regular, this super, I mean, what the fuck? These dudes, the sanctioning bodies need to make money, right? Those you guys are, my subscribers, you guys are all smart, but I'll explain this anyway. That's the way, like when Spence went, if you guys remember in the press conference when Spence was like, grabbed the mic, he's like, hey, I want to know where all these percentages go to. Guys like Canelo making millions, and where's all this go to? While I agree with him, I disagree with him a little bit from a business standpoint. The organizations have to make money too, right? Now they're super greedy, so that's why but that's common. They got to make money. They have a staff. They have brick and mortar places they rent. They have belts they buy. They have referees. They have things that they do, so they have to generate income. So that's why the sanctioning fees are put into place. But now, when you start ODing and adding because think of it this way, each one has one belt, one major belt, right? Each sanctioning body for each division. They add super and regular, now they're adding 2 more streams of revenue. So that, depending on who's fighting, because the popularity of the person how much money they can generate matters what the percentage is of the sanctioning fee. It's usually 2 or 3% they get. 2 or 3% of $1 million is $300,000. $10 million fight, that's 3 million or whatever that is. Yeah, three. So that shit's out of control. What are my thoughts on Zhang versus Joyce 2? I mean, I don't want to see that either. That was a one-sided ass whooping. Let me tell you something about Joe Joyce. I never understood the Joe Joyce fanfare. Nothing against him as a person. Seems like a cool dude, actually real cool dude, funny dude too. But as a fighter, I always found him to be. I thought his punches were exceptionally slow. I thought his footwork was exceptionally lumbering. I didn't understand why people thought he had a chance beating the top heavyweights. So when Zhang beat him, I was not shocked in the least. Just like when Benavidez beat Plant, I was shocked at all the people whose opinions I respect picking Plant. I didn't see that. That's one of the few times where I'll go high. I never do 0%, but with Plant Benavidez, it was like 90-10 to me. So Joe Joyce got beat very handily. So what are we seeing that for? Probably his rematch clause, because Joyce was the bigger draw. That's the only reason we're seeing it. So Zhang should probably do it again, and he'll make some more money for it. But not like anybody's knocking down Zhang's door to challenge for a title. So what else is he gonna do? Why not? Farewell, little EJ. What's that mean? Goodbye to Errol Spence. I don't know what that means. Where's he gone? Who's little EJ? Talk to me, Vic. I don't know what you're talking about. When's the Zhang fight? That's Saturday? Does anybody know? No? Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm excited for the Canelo fight. Other than that, I don't think there's anything in the works that really has me like really looking forward to it. I heard that Usyk and Fury are in the negotiations again. Now, of course, Fury still has to beat Ngannou, which he should do very easily. But that'd be a great fight. We've never had undisputed heavyweight for belt era. Errol's last fight in December. Yeah, Vic, you are correct. That was the biggest ass whooping I've ever seen in mega fight history. It is. I've gone through this before with you guys. There's a few other mega fights that were that one-sided. But this one, I think, was the biggest ass whooping. Floyd versus Castillo, or not Castillo, Floyd versus Corrales was close. And it was a mega fight. It was kind of a mega fight, actually, at the time. Both those guys were Pacquiao versus De La Hoya was an ass whooping. Close, but not as bad. Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. These are all the ones I think are in the category of biggest one-sided ass whooping mega fights. Those are the ones I could think of. Frazier versus Foreman might have been. Was that a mega fight though? Did Frazier already lost to Ali when he fought Foreman? If Frazier was undefeated when he fought Foreman, then that would be a mega fight, I would say. Maybe. Yeah, that was before my time, obviously. So yeah, I'm a Bud fan, and I couldn't watch EJ get his butt kicked like that. I never rewatched it. I'm with you. I didn't watch it either. It was, dare I say, upsetting. I'm not a fan of either guy. I am a fan of both, I should say. So I didn't care who won. I kind of liked. Yeah, nah, I didn't like either of them better than the other. They both were. I didn't care who won. So I was just watching it. I was actually disappointed in the fight because it was so one-sided. Huge build-up. Hagler Hearns talks. Mayweather versus Gotti wasn't a mega fight though, Childs. It was one of the biggest ass whoopings in history, yes, but it was not a mega fight because nobody who knew boxing thought Gotti would win. Nobody. Now Floyd beat him way worse than we thought. That fight reminds me of Roy Jones versus Vinny Pazienza. Same thing. That was one of the biggest ass whoopings in history, and nobody thought Vinny would win. But nobody thought Roy would be that fucking good. So I remember watching Mayweather vs. Gotti live. I predicted the fight. I don't get how people can see the skill gap between Spence and Crawford. Can't see the skill gap. I mean, there is a skill gap, but there was a presumed size and strength advantage. When I knew, or when I strongly thought that Bud was going to win, was at the weigh-in when they both had their shirts off, pause, and I saw how much bigger, like, muscular Bud Crawford was than I thought, and how he looked bigger, like, more jacked than Errol. Errol was a little taller, but Bud looked way more jacked. That's when I was like, oh shit. If he doesn't have... Shut the door. If he doesn't have a size advantage, well then what does he have? What advantage does he have? Because Bud is a better boxer. And Bud is 100% knockouts at welterweight. Still. When Bud was Vax Marco, Crawford was more solid, in better shape. Spence looked skinny. Yep. When Bud was rapping with Lil Wayne, I knew it was over. Rapping. Oh, that was a Lil Wayne song at the weigh-in? I mean, Bud even won the fucking ring walk. By far. He got a KO in the ring walk. And a KO in the fight. He got 2 knockouts. The man that lifted for 500 pounds. Well, for Forever G's, that's kind of a cool name. Forever G's. Yes, but take this from me. I never lifted weights in my life, right? Never. I hit harder than so many people. And I used to beat everybody in arm wrestling, right? Meaning, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm just saying so many people who can lift weight aren't actually as strong as athletes when it comes to punching power. Or even sometimes physical strength, pushing, and it's just something different. It's different. But you are right. Deadlifting 500 definitely does say you're strong, for sure. I definitely knew that Crawford was physically stronger than Spence. James was banking on that. The fact that people were saying Spence is fundamentally sound is insane. Well, I mean, he kind of is fundamentally sound, though, Vic, because he keeps his hands up high. 1, 2, hands up high, hands come back, moves, steps. He's very robotic, but all the fundamentals are there. Kind of like, in a way, like Tim Duncan. And I heard somebody else make that analogy, and I kind of agree. He didn't look like that the night against Crawford, but he is fundamentally sound. He's robotic. And that's why people always win when they play the chess computers. A person can always outthink a robot. Sometimes a robot wins, but over the years, they have to keep trying to make the robot better to keep up with people in chess. Same thing with this. A thinker is going to beat the robot, and that's what happened. Spence does not punch harder than Bud. Forever G's. He does not. I mean, that was clear when they fought. There's no arguing that. Unless, well, I guess you could argue it. You could say that Errol's chin is way worse. And unless Errol's chin is a garbage glass chandelier and Bud's chin is a mandolin, no. Like, unless there's a chin discrepancy, Bud hits way harder. We saw that in the fight. I mean, that's not even a debate. He clearly hits harder. Way harder. Spence is predictable. Yeah, well, robots are predictable. It's like when you used to play those Nintendo games, right? And the fighters would have 2 patterns. Like, you played Punch-Out. You knew King Hippo was gonna lift his pants, and when you hit him in the stomach, you could hit him in the face. You knew the patterns. Once you memorize the patterns, it's easy. It's a wrap. So that's what happens when guys are predictable. It's the same shit. So what are we saying about him being stronger? About who being stronger? About Bud being stronger? I mean, Spence was perceived to be stronger, but that was all disproven the night of the fight. And in my opinion, that was the only advantage he had, was that he was stronger. If in fact he was stronger. But when I saw their body frames, and look, I'm skinny and I'm pretty strong. I hit pretty hard for my, so meaning that body frames don't always mean anything, right? Some guys are skinny but strong. Look at De La Hoya in Trinidad. Trinidad didn't have a muscle. I challenge you to find a muscle on Trinidad's body. Go ahead, try and find one. But he hit like a truck. I mean, there was talks of his right wraps being loaded, but whatever, rumors. So muscles don't always mean shit. People only thought Spence was stronger because he was the naturally bigger guy. Well, not only that, Packers, but because he was breaking orbital bones. He was breaking orbital bones. That's why, knocking people out. That's why they thought he was stronger too. I get it. So, the rematch is going to be probably a mirror image of the first one. I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to bullshit, but I'm not excited to watch it. It's not like I'm not looking forward. I am looking forward to it, actually. I want to see it, but I'm not amped. I'd be more excited if one of these lightweights got together and made a fight. That would be dope. We need to see these lightweights. The Four Horsemen, get it on. Pause. And then at heavyweight, we got to see Usyk and Fury. Wilder versus Joshua needs to happen. And then I think Andy Ruiz should fight the winner of one of those two. Should fight either Fury or Wilder, because that's who I think is going to win. Because Fury and Wilder are probably going to win, and nobody wants to see them fight for the fourth time, because I don't. So how did Spence beat all those other guys if he's so predictable? Well, Terence Crawford is a different level. So Spence proved to be a great fighter, right? But Terence Crawford proved to be an all-time great fighter. Errol Spence proved to be a solid champion. Terence Crawford proved to be dominant champion of his era. That's why. Errol isn't garbage. If I don't know if that's what you think I'm saying, because I'm not saying that. Just because he lost to Crawford doesn't mean he's garbage, and you don't erase what he did in the division. He just got beat by a very, very special fighter. Danny's a robot. Nah, don't say Danny's a robot. Like I don't think you should, Packer. You shouldn't take away from his victories, because beating any former world champion, none of us can do it. You know what I mean? Like it's hard, and it's commendable, and it's a check mark. Just Bud was that guy right now. He's proved it. Ugas could fight his ass off too. And Ugas was getting in Errol's ass a little bit, but Errol's fucking took him down, man. Battered him. And Porter too. Porter is one of the best fighters I mean, he's done fighting, but Porter is one of the best welterweights of the not the 20s, of the, I guess, the 10s, 2010s. You know what I mean? He is. Marco, be honest, Danny is slow and doesn't throw enough for Spence. I disagree. I don't think Danny's slow. I think Danny was a great fighter. I thought Danny now is obviously a little over the hill, but no, I think Danny was a hard puncher. Who did I talk to? Somebody I just talked to told me that Danny Garcia was the hardest puncher that they ever faced. I was surprised to hear that too. Was it Zab? No, Zab never fought Danny, did he? No, I thought Danny was an excellent fighter. Danny was one of the best at welterweight. Porter gave Spence a war. Yeah, Porter was beating Bud too until Bud put his foot on the gas. So, that's how it is. Errol is still great, he might be feeling effects from the car accident, from the head trauma, which comes with boxing, mixed with the car accident. That might be slowing him down. There could be a lot of things happening, which could have played a partial role in why he didn't look that good. Um, it's hard to tell. He looked great against Ugas. Well, good against Ugas, but brain brain damage is a gradual thing. So it's very conceivable that over the 13 months he didn't fight, or whatever it was, 6 months, 7 months, whatever it was, it could have progressed. It's possible, or maybe it had nothing to do with that. We don't know. We just know that a fight that lopsided, I don't care what was going on with Errol, it wouldn't have made a difference. Thurman said what? Thurman said what? Thurman say? Yeah, Spence did predict a one-sided beatdown. I know. It's ironic. You think Crawford will stop Danny and Ugas? Yeah, he probably would. Well, Packers, Crawford will stop. You have to put your money on Crawford stopping anybody because that's what he's done at welterweight 100% of the time. Not only did he stop, but a guy like Errol, who's never even been down. So you got to put your money on that. The only thing that might be a thorn in the side of Bud is his age. He's starting to get up there. He didn't show any signs of slowing down yet, but late 30s when it starts. Now, it used to start in your late 20s. Now it starts in your late 30s. We'll see. I mean, Danny Garcia's at 54, so we'll see who he fights. It's hard to tell. I'm going to get out of here in a second. You guys have any other questions you want to shoot at me? I think we covered a lot of ground. The light heavyweights. We can talk about those guys. Maybe I'll do that next. Really just Beterbiev and Bivol need to fight. That's all that's there. Yeah, Danny does have a chin. Spawn. I agree. Father time is ticking. Yep. They got to fight. But, Vic, they're not going to fight when we have rematch clauses jamming up, throwing a monkey wrench in the whole thing. Beterbiev is beating everybody. Very possible. 100% knockouts. Nobody else in boxing. Well, Virgil Ortiz. But Beterbiev also. He's 38, 39. We could see a decline at this point. Appreciate you, Packers. He stops all those guys and needs to test that guy. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, man. We will see what happens. All right, fellas. I'm assuming there's no girls in here, but maybe there is. Good talking to you guys, and I will see you on the next live stream. Peace.